Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to TechGig webinar series, our endeavor to impart techies. We believe that sharing of knowledge is the key to enhance our skills and grow us as professionals. With this principle in mind, we have initiated a series of webinars conducted by industry experts to give you all a crisp insight of various domains. The topic of today's session is 9 practices to minimize technical debt, an agile approach. Our guest speaker today is Mr. Vinay Krishna, Software Development Manager at Segedem Software India Private Limited. Vinay Krishna is having 12 years of experience in software development and is currently working as a software development manager. He's flourished in a fast-paced environment requiring excellent problem-solving skills, multiple project completion under short deadlines, and the ability to communicate with clients and end users. He helps teams to adopt Agile, Scrum, Lean in his organization. He is doing research in the field of software architecture. So far, his 11 papers have been published in various international journals and conference proceedings. His 2 papers are translated in Chinese language by Scrum Network at China. Vinay has found and currently managing Agile Bangalore User Group. He is a management committee member of Computer Society of India, Bangalore chapter. He has been part of organizing team for several international conferences. Vinay has been invited to deliver Tech Talk guest lectures at prestigious engineering colleges, universities, different organizations and various Agile forums and conferences. He is a certified Scrum Master and a certified Scrum professional. So without further delay, I introduce you all to our guest speaker. Over to you, Vinay.
Thank you. Thanks for a nice introduction. I hope everyone is able to see my screen now.
Your screen is still not visible, Vinay.
Yeah, is it visible now? Because in audience view, I'm not able to see that.
No, it's not visible. Just making you the
Visible,
presenter
right?
once again. Yeah, let me make you the presenter once again. Have you shared it now?
Is that fine now?
You've clicked on show my
Yeah,
screen.
I hear that. Yeah, I clicked on.
It's still showing waiting to view Vinay Krishna's screen.
Yeah, that's what I clicked on that.
What all can you see on the control panel? I guess it's not been shared yet. You need to click on the show my screen button there. Have you clicked there?
Yeah, I clicked that.
What all do you see in the screen sharing?
I'm seeing that show my screen, screen clean, click inbox, whatever is there.
Okay, so
So I click on
the
the
show my
screen.
screen, what color is that? Is it green or is it in gray?
That is when I'm just clicking that show my screen, it's coming fluctuating. It's coming as a green and borders in green and some colors are blue colors are coming.
But it still shows me that it's waiting to view your screen. That is what I see now. Earlier it got shared well. Now again I am making it the presenter. Please click on the button now when it comes.
Okay, so I will make it as show my screen, right?
Yes, you would need to click that.
I did that. Here.
It's still not shared.
I'm doing that. I'm just clicking that the same way what we have done a few minutes ago.
Can you please log out and log in again?
Okay.
Just close it and then please log in again.
Exit webinar.
Yes, yes. You need to log out of the GoToMeeting and then please log in again using the link which I've sent you.
Okay, I will do 1 minute. Okay, it came, looks like.
Yeah. Now it just came.
It's came now, right?
Yes, it's visible now. Now you
Okay.
can start with the session.
So,
I guess there was some network issue.
yeah, might be. Sorry, all the attendees for this session, for this technical difficulties. Okay, so today, as already has been introduced for this session, we are going to discuss about the technical debt and the 9 practices which can be used to minimize this technical debt. So before we will start with the technical debt, so what is debt? Might be a simple question because day to day we are having this type of different type of debts that we are dealing in our day to day life. So what is debt? And if you look at the Wikipedia, there we are getting a definition which says that debt is nothing but an obligation that is owed by one party, which is called as debtor, to a second party called as creditor. But whenever we are hearing this word debt, what comes in our mind if you look at this person, in this image, he is having some debt. But the problem is he is not able to stand properly or to walk properly. And that is what the debt is. But if that's the case, why do we need the debt? And another definition, which is much simpler, we are saying that an amount of money that is borrowed by one party from another. Right? But why do we need? We have seen this image, this picture. We have seen that yes, we are borrowing some money and we are having this situation. Then why? Why do we need to borrow something? So answer is many corporations, individuals use this debt as a method for making large purchases that they could not afford under normal circumstances. That's the key for this question. So under normal circumstances, one cannot afford for a large purchase, and that's why we need, as an individual or as a corporate or an organization, the debt as a method to do that. But this is another situation, what we are seeing in this picture. This is where we are finding the difficulties. And why this is happening, why we are finding that different debt, that invoice from the different people who has given, the creditor has sent the invoice, we are having this situation. Because there is one clause, there is some legal things also involved here. And this says that debt is just an arrangement which gives the borrowing party a permission to borrow money under the condition that it is to be paid back at a later date usually, right? And that is with interest. And that's very, very important. When we are taking debt, why this person is with debt even though he is able to make a large purchases? Why this person is being annoyed or he is having worried with the loss of invoice? Because it's not like we can take money, we have to give it back. And when we are giving it back, it is with the interest. Always, debt is having a condition, pay it down, else. So always there will be some legal things, legal action will be taken if payment is not received within such and such days or months or whatever the time frame is there. Else, there could be a situation so if that is the case, can we say no to debt? Is it really possible? A life without debt? And if you look at our day-to-day life, whoever is, whether a businessman or an individual person, we feel that or we know that it's just an utopia. It's not a reality. We cannot live without debt.
Vinay, can you please be a bit loud? Your voice is very slow.
Okay. So what do we need? What is the need? So we cannot have a life without debt. So what do we need? We need a complete debt relief. Okay, so far what we are talking about is nothing related to the technical debt. We are talking about financial debt. And probably that's why you people are feeling that we are here to discuss about technical, and I am the guy who has started it with the financial debt definition. I know that, but there are some similarities. That's why we started with this debt situation. We all know about it. That is the correct statement about the financial debt. And there are various debt relief methods are available, which we are using in our day-to-day life. That is also correct. But in many aspects, the same technical debt is similar to financial debt. There is one place where it is having some differences that we will discuss in our later slide. But you will feel that this technical debt is very much similar to financial debt. So that means we need to take this technical debt and we have to pay it down later as well. So we will see that. Did you ever experience something like this? So your application is in production, you are in the maintenance phase. A small change is there and you are feeling it as a very big trouble. You are not able to handle a new change. You are not able to handle the business change or the customer's need change or whatever. And you are feeling that it's really, really difficult to maintain that either the legacy or the newly built application after several years or might be after 1 or 2 years. And that's not because of anything, but it's just because of the technical debt. We are putting our best effort, we are hitting hard, but it's still the situation is our working hour is getting stretched. We are putting day and night, and even the weekend we are spending on the same thing. So this wonderful metaphor has been developed by Ward Cunningham, and he has given a new thinking dimension about this problem. So what he has tried to explain, that doing the things in quick and dirty way in the design or code is nothing but technical debt, which is similar to financial debt as I told earlier as well. Because like a financial debt, we have to pay it back in the form of extra effort. So when we are talking about the maintenance, even the small changes there, we have to put more and more effort to implement that change. And that is because of whatever reason. Maybe that design is more rigid, or the code is written in that way that we are not able to take the new change in the application. So that is nothing but a technical debt, and it be paid in terms of extra effort, the unnecessary hours. So there is two things. Either we can continue paying the interest, or we can pay down the principal by refactoring the quick and dirty code or design into the better design. So in short, if we are adding any unnecessary complexity in the design and code, whether it's knowingly or unknowingly, is nothing but we are adding the depth. So knowingly we do by deliberately, and in the case of emergency, shortcuts. So here what we are seeing, the traffic rules are there, the best, the traffic signals are here, the roads are there, but still we cannot follow the rules and regulations in this context because it's useless if you will try to follow. It's not the hour of need, right? So we cannot use that. We know that we are doing wrong and we are forced to do that. And that's the situation of emergency shortcut. So what is happening in case of the software development, the requirements mature with the time, business requirements changes over the time, and there are lots of evaluation in technology also which directly affect the complete requirements capture. Such changes, whether it's from the system requirements or the business or the evolution of technology, require modification to the design and code at the later stage of development. And without disturbing the schedule and forgetting the customer's expectation, because whatever we have promised, we are forced to do a quick and dirty changes in design and code, though those has not been planned earlier. And that is what we are doing something knowingly. So such unplanned changes has been done with full knowledge of the developer, and which is adding complexity to the code. And that is what the knowingly adding the technical debt. There is another situation called as unknowingly. Lack of knowledge is the primary reason for that. Here, the rules are there, the same traffic rules are here. But we are not able to follow that because we are not aware. Might be the truck driver is not aware, or might be the driver, whoever is on any of the vehicle is not aware. And that's aware because of that lack of knowledge. He is not able to follow that. And the same thing is happening in case of the development also. So we are making, as a developer, we are making the code messy by not adhering by the prescribed coding standards, incorporate changes in a hurry, because always we will be in a hurry and we will be behind that schedule. We have to complete in that particular time. Making overcommitment, that's another thing. If you will ask any developer how much time you need, he will say 1 hour. After 1 hour, you will ask how much time still you need. He will say again another 1 hour. And it will be keep going on. And because of that, there will be lots of pressure from the outside also and inside also. And that will make him to do lots of messy code. So he will reproduce the thing which is more and more messy. So whether it's knowingly or unknowingly, it is having no problem unless we are not getting used to it, violating the rules. That means it should not be this situation. But why should I bother? As a developer, why should I bother? So as per Gartner, total technical debt in global IT sector was $500 billion in 2010. And it is expected to grow by 1 trillion in 2015. And believe me, it's not alarming, it's appalling. If you look at the various cycle of the vicious cycle of technical debt, first we are having the poorly written code, whether knowingly or unknowingly, which is here in the red circle. Then we are putting more time and we are taking more cost, it costs more. And the business, because of this poorly written code, business becomes less agile because it's not able to take a new change quickly. So it will be able to make less money. And then when we will get the less money, we are getting less money for future development. And again, it's coming to a poorly written code. And the cycle goes on. There is, it's a endless loop. But at the same time, if you look at the James Hicks, a famous agilist, he's saying that all projects incur technical debt, and that is not a bad thing. Oh, so whatever we have taught so far is not making any sense here. We were talking about the technical debt, which is not good. But the James is saying it's not a bad thing. Bit confusing, right? The first thing we should keep in our mind, it is really, really hard to eliminate technical debt completely. We can only minimize it. We cannot eliminate that. And as a developer, because he is a key stakeholder in a software development, he can play an important role in minimizing this technical debt. And that's why we are going to talk on all these practices, though it's not directly related to the technical aspect, because I'm not talking to discuss about the refactoring techniques because already lots of materials are available there. But I'm going to talk on what are the practices we will use so that we can have, we will be able to use those refactoring techniques more efficiently. So what is available? As I told you that already there are lots of tools, techniques, methods, all these are available. So what is available? The tools are available, practices are available, those things are already there, lots of materials are available on that, how to use them, but those are necessary. I'm not saying those are necessary because with them only we will be able to reduce that, but these are not sufficient. So in terms of availability, we are having I have mentioned here 3 categories. One is identification, how we can identify the technical debt. So if the code quality is poor, we can find out that yes, there are some technical debt. If the insufficient code coverage is there, inadequate documentation is available, that is some indication of the debt. The classification, again, we can classify on the basis of knowingly, unknowingly. Short term is there, long term is there, prudent and reckless debt is there, strategic and non-strategic is there, 4 gates of debt is there. The reduction techniques are there in terms of refactoring, test-driven development, code reviews, audits, peer programming, continuous integration, best practices in coding standards, and evolutionary design. There are lots of other things as well, but I have tried to cover as much as possible between these 3 classifications. But what is not there? What is not available? A method is missing. A proper method is missing, which can make a coder to a developer. Because there is a big difference between a coder and a developer. Coder can reproduce the codes, which may work or may not, and which may not be useful at a later point of time. But a developer is responsible to develop the things. Okay, so if you want to minimize the technical debt, I'm here to start with the 9 practices to minimize this technical debt. So let's start that. So the first practice is, even though it's very much similar to what we are doing in the financial debt. So suppose you are going to take a home loan. What you will do? The first thing, what you will do? I'm not talking about saving. I'm talking about how you will decide this is good for you. This much is your capacity to take as a loan. On what basis? And that's the first practice. So determine one's living budget. How much is required to live properly? And in terms of development, how it is relevant. So let's look at that. So what is living budget in terms of development, software development? A minimal output in a day that needs to produce to meet your deadlines. And that is what your living budget is. So whenever we are planning our work, we should estimate based upon that living budget and plan for self-code review and refactoring. Because whatever is left, that we can utilize for our self-code review and refactoring. Now one can tell that if they have got only 8 hours, how can they find out the self-code review and refactoring? In the case of Agile, when we are doing that estimate, the estimate is done by the team. It's not by a manager or a person, one person who has done that estimation. So always, and even though if the manager is there, he has to think about that, let's plan for self-code review and refactoring. And so if one plans for 8 hours work in a day, one should plan to spend X hours for development and Y hours for review and refactor for his own code. And he should understand if X hour is his living budget. It may be the 7 hours, or it may be 6 hours, or it may be sometimes 8 hours itself. So he has to plan. But what I am saying here, why the step here is start thinking how we can review our own code. We have to review our own code. We have to audit ourselves to see that whether anything can be improved in terms of code and design. The value of action should be determined by the developer, not by a manager. So one day is equal to 8 hours. One day development is equal to X hours development plus Y hours review and refactoring. And this X hour development is nothing but your living budget. So what is the best recommendation? Always keep hours for review and refactoring in your estimate. And in Agile world, whenever we are doing sprint planning practice of Scrum, that is very good because it talks about your availability and the hours is available for each of the team members. So that is one of the good practice we can do. And with that, with the help of these two, we can just do a better planning in terms of our living budget. These two. What this baby is trying to do. Oh, she is trying to smell. It's very good. You can smell. And as a developer, always we are ready and we are very good to smell the other's code. But here I am talking about smell your own code. So smell one's own code, that is a practice too. So if you have to work on any other code, immediately you will say that this is wrong, this has not been done in a proper way, or something has not been taken care of. As an individual, when we are on that same situation, we are not doing proper justice with our own implementation. So that's what the practice two is smell one's own code. But how can we do that? It's very simple to say, but very difficult to practice it. So review and understand where the code went wrong and where the unwanted code exists. Take steps to reduce, remove unwanted code in these areas, right? It may be possible that you are avoiding certain situations where you are doing the anticipation also. And normally we find very less time or no time to review or smell our own code because we are always struggling to meet these deadlines. So believe me, the practice one, when you will start that determining your own living budget, it will help you to follow this practice two. So both are independent. So practice two is dependent on practice one. So how good you are on determining your own living budget, you can smell or you can just make the proper things in your code. So the recommendation here are first define coding standards and best practices. We will talk on that on the practice 7 and make the team aware of this. A checklist should be created and developed, right? Use it to make sure that the defined coding standard has been not ignored. Lots of time if you are doing it through the manual process, it's difficult. So you can do some automation also. There are lots of code analysis tools available which can be used to do that. And wherever a manual effort is required, definitely we should do that. Practice, third practice. You are working on another code or you are working on your own code. You saw one problem. Instead of jumping to the solution, always go in the root. And that's the practice 3. Find the root cause for over-anticipating. Might be you have anticipated something else and the actual situation is something different. So lots of times we do because we feel it better. Okay, I have to write down this layer because of this may be required in the future or some other reason as well. So one may introduce additional complexity, right, in the code to cover some unpractical scenarios. This may not be required and eventually make the code more complex. So always try to remove the accidental complexity rather than essential complexity because it's very, very challenging to distinguish between the accidental versus the essential. But always try to remove the accidental and keep the essential complexity. Treat with these issues by finding the root cause of over-anticipating problems, or wherever we are finding any problem situation, you can just look at that and try to overcome with that situation. And this is going to get a relief from your technical debt as well because the more and more complexity is there, more and more scenarios are there which is making it more rigid. That is, that debt is more and more there. The recommendation is when we will talk about the practice 4, 5, and 6, they will help us to overcome. Credit cards. Okay. We are having lots of credit cards nowadays, especially in our MNCs working people. And this is one of the situations when you do it very frequently, you'll find the situation, okay, let's cut this money. So optimal use of your technical credit. And the word technical credit, what I mean here is, whenever we are anticipating in design and code, is nothing but technical credit, which you have to pay it later. But might be you have implemented now. And that anticipation is adding a complexity to the design and code, which may be required or might not be required. So if it is required, then it's okay. But if it's not required, then. And this is very important aspect in coding and use unless one is confident about future needs. One should keep anticipating. So my first thing is, if you remember that Agile principle says, make it simple. So keep it simple. Anticipate as less as possible and with a valid ground. If you have the valid ground, yes, you can go for this technical credit. So do the optimal use of that technical credit. So recommendation is don't assume, let's anticipate. If assumed something, discuss it within team, and then based upon the common consensus, do it. Practice 5. So where are we in this image? So person is about to get down in that water. Take help from others. Don't hesitate. Lots of the time we feel that, oh, if I will ask, somebody will feel he doesn't know. Please remove that part. Because it should not be at this situation you are asking for help. Because no one can help you unless a Superman is there. And in the real life, it's really difficult to get Superman. So that's why don't hesitate and try to take help from others. And there is no harm if you are going and asking somebody for the help. Practice it. Stop keeping up with the Joneses. So don't follow blindly others. I will just try to show you one video on this regard. Okay. It's one of the video that advertisement which we have seen in the TV commercials. If you are not able to see, I will just tell you it's from the Shiksha, where one guy is saying that I'm going to join an engineering college, and rest all is following him there without understanding whether it is required for them or not. So that is what the practice 6 is. Basically, it says that do not follow blindly anyone. First, try to listen to everyone and do the best one. I will tell you one thing. 6-7 years back, almost 7 years back, I was looking at one legacy code, and I saw that there were 6 web services has been written for a small web application. I'm saying small, that is required only 3 to 4 pages. That's it. And each web service was having only one method. And when I dig into, because it's a debatable whether it was required or not, so when I dig into, I came to know it has been implemented because they heard that in another team they were using web service. So they thought they will also learn and they will use it here. And it was not required. So lots of times we are hearing that, okay, that new technology came, let's use that without understanding the need. And that is where we are making that whole application with more depth. So practice 7. How this picture looks like, well organized. the city is well organized, the traffic is well organized. I got a question also from Paula, and the question about is practice 4. So which is optimal use of technical credit in terms of assumption? I will look at that because I'm finding some difficulty to read that. Okay, first I will continue this, and then on the question answer session time I will just look at those. So the practice 7 is the best practice. So the first thing is follow the best practices and coding standards. So the first thing is within the team or the development team, we have to define that what are the coding standards we have to maintain. What are the best practices we should follow? Because in the same code, you will find that people are in the team, they are maintaining the different coding standards. And as per their own convenience, they are doing that. And which is good at certain aspect, but again, what I mean to say here is, if there will be a uniformity, it will make lots of differences. The eighth practice says it talks about that you start refactoring the technical credit. And what I mean here is technical credit account, wherever we have done lots of anticipation. So look at if you have lots of card bills, what normally we do. We cannot pay all at a time. There are different scenarios. It may be possible that we can pay, then well and good. But if we are not able to pay all at one time, what we can do? And that is what we are talking about. Let's start refactoring. Which are the things we will pay first? Which are the things we will pay later? And we have to think more which one. And based upon that, we can start doing that. And it's very, very required, it's essential in case of all the legacy applications. So in case of legacy, it's good that we have added some additional new features, but at the same time we have to see how much we can refactor that legacy application so that if there is any gap, we can just remove that. If no coding standards, nothing has been used there, can we start refactoring slowly and see the difference? And that's the whole idea. Because lots of time you will find a difficulty when you are working on a legacy product or legacy application where these things have not been maintained from the beginning. So now if you are finding a huge safety there. And if you will go and you will ask to your customer or the client or your manager or your stakeholders, I need 3 months or years to refactor that and remove that or minimize the technical debt. No one will be ready because it's already working application on the production. They only want to add some additional features. In that situation, the 8th practice says that we start refactoring. So let's elaborate that what it's trying to talk about in that terms. So only refactor one part at a time until it is improved. Remember, we need to see the depth is reducing. So try to see where and which are the part is really required. Larger refactoring on one part will show this better than refactoring on several parts of the code at the same time. So don't jump into that, okay, I will just, in this module also I have to do, or this function also I have to do. At whatever level you are thinking, you just go one by one. You just try to see, take one part, maybe one big method as well. If you can just refactor that, or maybe a small method. So wherever you are finding, it is possible to do that refactoring without changing your schedule and other things much, which may be required to change a little bit. But if you will ask for a large number of months or years to do that refactoring, probably no one will accept that. So in that scenario, you just try to start refactoring the technical credit account. That means wherever the more and more debt is there, and which required a small effort to do that, and which can show that debt reducing also in terms of that application is improved, in terms of the changes it can take or lesser time it can take to manage the new changes. Practice 9, the last one. What we do when we get the extra time, as a developer, what we do. Suppose I have taken given an estimate of 16 hours. It's completed in 8 hours. What we do? What do we do in a free time? Yes, still there is some time to start implementation, or the same thing, the extra time. That is nothing but your free time. What do we do? And that is what always feel that there is a scope of improvement. So in the code as well, we can do some improvement. So we have to plan it out. We have to manage the time properly, such a way that extra and the free time is utilized in a proper way to pay that debt back. And that is what it's talking about. But remember this, you should not fall into this situation. So don't try to save your time, because if you will try to save your time in this way, probably you are making more messy that whole entire application and the code. Right? And the last thing is, don't say there is still time, or maybe the next time I will do that, because always there it gets too late. So it should not happen that you are in that at the time of production release, you are finding that, oh, now we cannot do that, right? So that is what the practice 9 is. So utilize your extra time more efficiently, effectively. And that's all for this technical debt 9 practices. Questions? I'm seeing one question from Karthi Kiran on, could you elaborate more on the practice 4? And that is on optimal use of technical credit in terms of assumption. Yes, so what I mean to say here is, lots of times we are making assumptions from our side. Unless it's not, those assumptions are not validated properly, verified, we should not implement that. I'll give you one example. It's a very good idea to have a data access layer, like which can be used for any type of database, maybe with the Oracle, with the SQL Server, with the Sybase, with whatever. And that way we have used that, we have created our data access layer. Now, it may be required, but only I need to connect to SQL Server. Why we are wasting our time to create that? Unless that library is already there, the proven library is already there. I'm just showing an example. It may be that exactly the data access layer is not valid, valid example here, but that type of thing. Wherever you are assuming anything, okay, I can make it more better, you just take a while and just think whether it's really required. Am I doing a justification with my assumption here? And discuss it with your stakeholders, maybe your product owner, with you within the team, whether that assumption is really right or not. And that's where I'm talking about the technical credit. So wherever we are making any assumptions, which is required the anticipation. And anticipation always is, you are assuming it may be possible that it's coming into a reality or may not. If it's turning into the reality, it's well and good, because it was, and that's where I'm talking about the essential and accidental. So if it's really required, it's an essential complexity. But if you are doing just because you are feeling that it's good to have it, then it's just an accidental complexity. So,
Hope you can see the questions, Vinay.
yeah, I'm receiving. The field is asking, the next question which I am reading here is, what is the best time to discuss about technical debt during a sprint process? Uh, what I would say, it's not like a best time. The technical debt should be understood by the entire team. So within the sprint process, from the beginning, if the best, like coding best practices, refactoring techniques, all things have not been set or discussed within the team, then it's good to define before the sprint. But throughout the sprint, we should focus on that. There is another question from the Dhanappa Dashari also, but will peer reviews help to fix the code problems? Yes, it helps, but again, when you are talking about peer reviews, the peer also is busy in their own code development, so you cannot rely completely on it. But yes, that's a good idea that can be implemented. There is another question from Dinesh Vyas. Which practice will be best to reduce resources efforts if the technical debt exists in agile development process? So that is what I'm talking about, the whole 9 practices. If we will use that, maybe the extra time, maybe how we will plan about that, our that living budget and all those things, probably that will help us to reduce that resource efforts. And if we are following from the beginning that best practices, the coding standards, the tools are there which can verify the code coverage and other things, all those things will help us to reduce that. Another question is, when so projects are running this type of debt, but delivery is critical? Okay, that is a good question, because the delivery is very, very critical, whether we can handle that or not. So from the beginning, I was telling this technical debt we cannot eliminate completely. It will be there. It's good also, because your delivery is more critical. Your in debt is very, very critical. You cannot change that. And even the practitioner doesn't say that also. So only thing is, whenever we are finding time and whenever we are planning, we should plan for removing or reducing the technical debt. Maybe for that particular critical phase of or delivery, critical delivery, we are ignoring that, and that is we are doing it knowingly. But we should not be used to with that. That next again we are doing in the same way. We are not thinking to that refactor the code or the design. How do we link in technical debt with change management? Yes, it's a planning thing, because when you are talking about change management, and when we are planning about the whole implementation effort or the change adoption effort, that time we have to plan about how the time we can put for our code reviews or the refactoring things, and that way we can just some minimize technical debt situation. Any suggestions on overcoming technical debt in mid-size companies? See, it doesn't matter whether it's a mid-size or the large or the small. It all depends upon whether we are really aware of the technical debt or not. Because as I told you that, why should I bother? And that's what, and another thing is, so far we were talking about the financial debt similarity in the technical debt. But there is one very peculiar difference between the financial debt and the technical debt. The difference is, in the financial debt, you are taking a debt and you have to pay it down. You have to pay it back. But in case of technical debt, it's not true. Because as a developer, I have taken. Now I'm not in that project. Or I'm not with that organization. But the organization has to pay it back. So that's why when we are talking about overcoming the technical debt thing, it's a overall the process. I was talking about the tools and techniques are there, the method we have to build it. So within that, we have to build that culture where we think about the technical debt from the developer's perspective, and we will try to pay it back. I'm not able to see any other questions. Okay. How continuous integration improves technical debt? What are you actually mean by continuous integration? Okay. So continuous integration, when we are talking about, it gives us to understand that there is some problem in early stage. So that way we can just start thinking about where it's breaking and what are the different problems we are facing at that moment. So directly if you will say that continuous integration only gives us the integration issues, but indirectly, yes, at very early stage we are going to get that issues. So probably it will help us to make the systems properly so that it can deal with the others. Okay. Another question is, can technical debts lead to overriding of business needs, which is for at times betterment of delivery from simple? Good question, but see, the technical debts lead to overriding of business needs. So whenever we are doing the refactoring or whatever, right? As I told you, whether we are making any assumptions as well, we should have some justification behind that, why we are going to do that. And actually speaking, reducing debt doesn't mean that you are going to change the business need or that functionality. The next question is, as the technology is innovating regularly, whatever is done today will be obsolete tomorrow and get converted into a technical debt. How do we deal with it? Any viewpoints? The technology innovating regularly, that's correct, right? Whatever is done today, in terms of technology or in terms of business you are talking about. If you are talking about in terms of technology, I guess even though technology is getting changed, I don't think that business need is getting changed, right? Whether we are using new technology, the business need will remain changed. The way the business is happening may get changed. So in that case, I don't see any problem. But if the business is getting changed, that means, yes, that may be possible. So in that case, that particular implementation may be obsolete. If that's true, the technical debt is added. But when we are going to implement that, either we should remove that part, or we can instead of carry forward the same implementation. And that is what we are doing all the time. Are there any different methods to reduce technical debt in non-agile projects? The same method what we are talking about can be used in the non-agile as well. Couple of things we have to plan it out when we are talking about the sprint planning meeting and all those things. Probably we need to check it out whether we should do that thing at the start of the project, and whenever that decision has been made in terms of coding standard or the refactoring techniques to be used by one single person, that things can be taken from a team perspective. So we go for strategy, what organization does or tactics can play more relevant. Go for strategy, what organization does or tactics can play more relevant. Yes, in certain cases, yes, tactics may play, but again, what I'm focused here is from a developer perspective, what awareness is required in the developer side so that he can play a vital role to minimize this technical debt. How to develop my making plan skill? Okay. There is another question, how can a tech manager see the opportunity to help client to initiate tech debt removal in case of new development relationship with client? Yeah, that is one thing you cannot tell all the time. You can provide or convince the client in terms of the technical debt removal. But in case of new development relationship, you can start with that some of the practices like define the coding practice, how the review can be happen, how we can do that automate, how we can refactor the things. Those things from the beginning we can just plan with the client as well. And that will make a good rapport to the client also that yes, they are more worried on the code quality as well. So that can be one thing that can be used. Another thing is, as I told you, all the time you should not let them know about that what we are doing internally. But from the developer side, we can build a culture so that that thing has been always been considered whenever we are writing a small piece of code or the big piece of code. It should be an adaptive or predictive method, not in that this debate, but it should be in one thing that we should be worried about, the code quality, and if we are worried about whether it's adaptive or predictive, it doesn't matter.
Well, those were the only questions we had, Vinay. Thank you so much for answering them.
And not, okay, thank you.
Thank you so much for the insightful presentation as well. It was a great session. I would also like to thank all our participants for the support in making this webinar a success. The recording of this session would be available on techgeek.com by evening. Thank you all. Have a great day.
Bye.